Welcome, future CMAs, to this explainer on mastering lean resource management for Part 1, Section D. I am super excited to step in as your personal professor today and honestly just guide you through this whole thing. Now look, I know supply chain management can sometimes feel like this massive, kind of overwhelming, tangled web of logistics, right? But hey, for the CMA exam, you don't need to be a logistics dispatcher. You just need to look at the supply chain through the lens of efficiency and cost management. As a management accountant, you aren't just sitting there counting the money after the fact. No way. You're actively finding ways to stop that money from being wasted in the very first place. So let's dive into exactly how we actually accomplish that. On our agenda today to cut waste from your supply chain knowledge, we've got 5 key things. 1. The lean philosophy. 2. JIT and pull systems. 3. Kanban and manufacturing cells. 4. Value stream mapping and the 5S framework. And finally, number 5. The total cost trap.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the lean philosophy.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty tools, we really need to understand the mindset here. Honestly, think of lean as the ultimate fitness regime for a business. The goal is simple, but man, is it powerful. You literally just want to eliminate the wasted resources, the fat, and strictly maintain the activities that the customer actually values, the muscle. Everything in lean revolves around this just relentless pursuit of identifying what adds value from the customer's perspective, and then ruthlessly trimming absolutely everything else. Because if the customer isn't willing to open their wallet to pay for that specific activity, well, it's fat, and it's gotta go. Just keep this basic fitness analogy in your head as we start unpacking the specific tools used to build this lean, mean manufacturing machine. Moving right along to Section 2, JIT and pull systems. Building directly on that whole idea of eliminating waste, let's talk about the undisputed heavyweight champion of lean, and that is just-in-time, or JIT for short, and the pull system it relies on. There's just a totally stark contrast between how things used to be done and how lean companies actually operate today. Traditional supply chains use what's called a push system. So think of a traditional push system kind of like a cafeteria that just bakes 100 pizzas before anyone even walks in the door. You're risking huge carrying costs, you've got cash tied up in unsold goods, and you end up with cold, obsolete inventory. Lean just completely flips this on its head with a pull system. It acts much more like a high-end, made-to-order restaurant. Nothing is cooked, or in our case, manufactured, until the customer actually places the order. You are pulling the product through the factory based on actual demand, totally avoiding just pushing it based on some random guess. Now for the exam, you absolutely have to understand the financial and operational ripple effects of switching over to JIT. First off, it drastically lowers your inventory carrying costs, so we're talking way less warehouse space, lower insurance, less spoilage, and all of that frees up some incredibly vital working capital. But, and this is the crucial part, this requires total quality management, or TQM. Since there's literally no safety stock buffer, if a supplier delivers a bad batch, your entire factory just comes to a screeching halt. There is zero room for error here. Because of that, JIT essentially forces you to develop incredibly strong vendor relationships. You've got to rely on a small handful of highly reliable suppliers who can deliver perfect, small batches on a really frequent basis, rather than just dumping huge deliveries on you once a month.
All right, let's hit Section 3, Kanban and manufacturing cells.
So that whole pull system sounds totally great in theory, right? But how in the world do we actually physically signal it on the chaotic floor of a busy factory? Well, we use this brilliant little tool called Kanban. Now, Kanban is a Japanese word that translates to signboard or card, and it acts as this visual authorization for production or movement. Just picture this. When a workstation runs out of parts, a physical or maybe electronic Kanban card is sent to the preceding station. That card effectively just shouts, "Hey, I'm ready for the next batch." If there's no card, nobody makes anything. Period. It's such a simple mechanism, but it completely prevents overproduction, which, by the way, is widely considered the absolute worst type of waste because it hides other problems and totally ties up your cash. To make Kanban actually flow smoothly, lean companies have to totally rethink their factory floor plans using something called cellular manufacturing. So instead of grouping all the cutting machines in one distant department and all the assembly tables in some other building, machines are arranged strictly based on the exact sequence needed to make a specific product, and they're usually arranged in this U-shaped cell. You might be wondering, why U-shape? Well, it radically minimizes the physical travel distance for both the materials and the workers. Plus, it actually allows one cross-trained worker to just easily pivot around and operate multiple machines within that cell, which seriously drives up labor efficiency. Okay, jumping into Section 4, value stream mapping, and the 5S framework.
So we know the tools, but how do management accountants actually identify where all this waste is hiding in the very first place? Honestly, they use value stream mapping, or VSM. A value stream literally includes every single action required to bring a product straight from raw materials all the way into the hands of the customer. VSM is a visual flowchart of these steps, mapping out both the flow of materials and the flow of information. But when you look at a value stream map, you aren't just looking at a boring flowchart. It's basically like putting on X-ray glasses. You can instantly spot the bottlenecks, those annoying idle waiting times, and any wasted physical movement. It just shines a huge spotlight on non-value added time. And remember our golden rule? If the customer wouldn't willingly open their wallet to pay for a specific step in your process, it's waste. VSM just helps you target it so you can eliminate it.
Okay, so once you map it out and clean it up, how on earth do you maintain this perfectly waste-free environment day in and day out? Well, companies rely on the sequential 5S framework. You definitely don't need to memorize the original Japanese terms for the exam, just stick to the English concepts here. First, we have sort. Basically, eliminate what you don't need from the workspace. Second is straighten. Organize what remains so it's perfectly easy to find. Third is shine, meaning you clean the workplace meticulously. Fourth, standardize. You got to create rigid rules to maintain those first three steps. And finally, sustain. Build the organizational discipline to actually keep it going long term. Just think of the 5S framework kind of like organizing your garage so incredibly well that you could find a specific wrench in pitch black. A clean, standardized workplace naturally reduces errors, it prevents accidents, and it totally slashes downtime, all of which, you guessed it, directly protect your bottom line.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, the total cost trap. Now let's see how all of this builds into my ultimate professor's tip for you. This is a classic scenario that the ICMA absolutely loves to test, just to see if you really grasp the big picture of lean, rather than just rote memorizing a bunch of definitions. Imagine you're sitting there in the exam room and this exact scenario pops up. A company adopts lean and JIT. Naturally, they see their inventory storage costs drop beautifully. Awesome, right? But then their short-term delivery and freight costs suddenly spike, mainly because they're now paying for frequent, smaller shipments from suppliers instead of securing those massive bulk discounts. The question asks, did the lean initiative fail? I want you to actively think about this for a second. Look at those rising delivery costs. What is the actual right call for a management accountant to make here? The answer is an emphatic no. It absolutely did not fail. Why? Because as a future CMA, you must always look at the total cost of ownership. Lean isn't about making one single isolated metric look amazing. It is about optimizing the entire system. So yes, freight costs might go up slightly, but those massive savings from lowering your inventory obsolescence, drastically reducing your warehouse footprint, and achieving much higher product quality, they will far outweigh those minor freight increases. You have to evaluate the holistic financial picture here. Whatever you do, do not fall for the trap of focusing on one localized cost increase. To wrap up our explainer today, I really want to leave you with a final, kind of provocative thought. Are you leaving non-value-added waste in your own study habits right now? I mean, lean is all about doing more with less by eliminating the fat. So how can you apply these exact principles? Maybe using a pull system for studying your weak topics, or applying that 5S framework to your chaotic study desk to just totally eliminate waste in your own exam prep. If you master these concepts and streamline your study process, I promise you will absolutely crush Section D. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll catch you in our next explainer.